If I start mumbling or anything, can you just kind of wave? Because I do have a habit of suddenly reading it to myself. Or if I'm not sure I like it, kind of drop my voice, but that's not allowed. Okay, Clive said when he looked at his collection, he realised how many horses there were in it. It's kind of thing that takes you by surprise. And when I was putting this collection together, In Praise of Men, I'd thought there were a lot of poems about water and the sea, so it was going to be called something watery. And then I noticed how many very nice men there were in it, so I was very pleased. So I'll start off by reading poems about a couple of those very nice men. Not perfect men, but nice. And the first one is my dentist. And I wrote this for our 30th anniversary, because it's pearl. And it's got, you can't tell, but there's bits in italics in this, his pearls of wisdom over the years. That's probably all you need to know about him. And his bad jokes. You have to tell your dentist if you're pregnant. And for about 20 years, every time I went to see him, I would say, yeah, I'm pregnant, And he'd always make some daft joke about it. So he pointed out to me a few years ago that he noticed that I'd retired from that kind of thing. Mr. Montefiore's Pearls. My 30th anniversary with Mr. Montefiore, dentist to the stars. Out at night, he says, not yours, of course, not yet. And all this smoke, it's dentine powder, not your mouth on fire. Camp, nervous, bolder than I could ever be. He peers across the clamp, my half-wit lip. 4 hits will numb you more than just the one. The fine drill is smoother, quicker, but the thick more thorough. Priorities. And the mouth heals faster than any other orifice. He links me to the door, checks my mascara. His gloves raise lesions on his wrists. Pregnant again, you tart, for 20 years. How come? And now today, I notice you've retired. I've learned from him. Press down, go harder, longer than you think you can. The tongue will not obey the brain. Choose powerful men who wince at pain. I've not risked showing him that because he's very nice. He's very nice to me. Another rather nice man was my driving instructor when we lived in Huddersfield. The first lesson, there was a blizzard that day and the roads were all closed and there were big signs saying, do not go on the moors. And he turned up and he said, we're going on the moors. Go on the moors. We'll learn how to drive on ice. And we don't have to worry about rules. I didn't know that he'd been a police driving instructor and he thought the rules were just for civilians, really. So I used to go home and say, you don't always have to stop at red lights. And they'd say, you do. Of course you do. So I can't drive in traffic, but I'm pretty good in snow. So thank you, Dave. Instructor. This is the best bit. The steep glide into Milnes Bridge, the tight swing under the arch before the home straight when I'm behind the wheel in the last minutes of my hour. And he's there, foot well clear of the brake, mumbling into his mobile or reaching past me for his medicine. 20-odd years in the force, he knows about sensors and patrols, so we sail through the ambers and reds up to the Cowlersley crossroads. Outside the pub, 2 constables pause and turn on the pavement to salute us. A stickler for politeness, he says, wave back, don't smile. I file it under pertinent advice. Never trust another bloke's indicators. All dogs are unpredictable and ruthless. Know what the real speed limits are, and 3 ways to recognise an unmarked car. Over there. I must say I don't do much driving, so don't worry, you know. I'm not out and about in Manchester ever. Yeah, there are, well, perhaps not so many in this collection, but there are some school poems, and I'll read one about when the bishop was coming to our school to confirm us, and the nuns all got into a bit of a flap, you know, because he was like Mick Jagger to them, and they had us cleaning up and stuff. And it sort of, you know, affects your taste in men, I think, that, you know, you want somebody. The hierarchy, you know, you go after them. And I don't think I need to explain much. There is a reference to Jerry Marsden, Roy Orbison, Bo Diddley, stars like that, you know. Some of you will have heard of them. But you just imagine, you know, they were major in those days. The other thing is, Catholics will know that when the bishop comes to confirm you, you get a slap across the face to strengthen you in your future. Confirmation. In honour of his grace, you had us on our knees for weeks, a blessing on this visit, and please God, no silliness. Run ragged with dusters, shouting out for holy plimsolls, threatened with expulsion, some broke down distraught in the branches of the forsythia arranging, or, black bright with brasso, muttered in the trophy cupboard, he'd better be worth it, the bastard. We slummed silver paint on the refectory radiator, lugged planks to make an altar in the gym. What's up with the table we always have? What miracle's he going to perform on this? God forgive us. But we were whispering by then, disappointed by the Almighty, but holding our breath when he drew up. We queued and bobbed to kiss his glove, got te absolvoed, took the slap to strengthen us. Amen. Friday night, Roy Orbison invited Kath McMahon to his dressing room at the Odeon. Bo Diddley's drummer got Jacinta Malley's phone number. Jerry Marsden's roadie instructed, I forget who it was, on the needs of the elderly, balding, purple, silky shirty, not so godly nor entirely manly, but here and cocky and think yourself lucky. Obedience, we knew our place. Thank you, Sister Mary Frances. And she'll not get to hear that one either. Just talking behind people's backs here. It's a different kind of school thing. A couple of years ago, I was working in a school in India, and this is about arriving after a very, very long journey. It was a time when there was a lot of security at airports, and so it had been a whole day, really, of travelling and arriving and seeing this headline on the newspaper. They'd been some problem with water, and they'd checked the well, and they'd found 100 newborn baby girls in the well, and the headline was a bit accusing, really. You know, we found out who's been causing all the trouble here, and it's really, the poem is about that kind of, when you're exhausted and you're trying to make sense of something. Julunda Times. In the last of the light, you circle a quagmire, ignore the bridal shoe shop sequined against the hospital shed. You're tired, everything's reflected on mud in neon, fertility miracles, testing. A headline in the Julunda Times, 100 female neonatals, it's jet lag, that impact, found to be polluting local well. Rain slicks everything. Rickshaws, a drowsing cow on the crossroads, a motorbike, the pink billowing sari you admire, then overtake. 2 babies sound asleep between his back, her chest. Time's fluid now. Suffer yourself to be linked by your driver to your bowing doorman. Good evening, madam. Apologies for the monsoon. A candle-lit reception, power cut, no phone. Welcome. You have come very far to be at peace in your hotel room. So it's a bit grim, isn't it? I don't be thinking about things like that. A few years ago, we had our very first answer phone, and we thought this is really posh. But it didn't work properly. We only got half messages, and they were a bit worrying because there were always things like, please don't forget again about something, and then it'd stop. Or we had a terrifying message that was from Ian Dewig, who's got a very gravelly, rather sinister voice, saying, by no means stay at the Killadoon Hotel. And then there was nothing else. So we were going to take it back because it was more trouble than it was worth, because we didn't know who the messages were for or from. And then one night we were in, and our cat had kittens, and they were lying on the top, 4 of them, because it kind of was purring and there was a little light on it. And when someone rang up and the answer phone spoke under them, they all peed into the phone. And we realised that, that's what was wrong. So it's that's a long way around to this fairly short poem. But so part of it, again, is in italics. Part of it is the answer phone message, and part of it is, speaking directly to it. And it's called Voice. Call by all means, but just once, don't use the broken heart again, voice. The I'm sick to death of life and women and romance voice, but with a little help, I'll try to struggle on, voice. Spare me the promise and the curse voice, the answer phony, call me please when you get in, voice. The nobody knows the trouble I've seen, voice. The I'd value your advice, voice. I want the how it was voice, the call me irresponsible but aren't I nice voice. They're such a bastard, but I warned them in advance voice. We all have weaknesses, and mine is being wicked voice. The life short and wasting time's the only vice voice. The stay in touch but out of reach voice. I want to hear the things it's better not to broach voice, the things it's wiser not to voice. I'll do 2 more. Box that in. I call them different things, you see, in my head. Oh, don't lose my watch. And so when I see the title in here, that's another surprise. It's not, I should call that at all. There we are. This was written as a kind of attempt to understand something or to believe something. I've got 4 children. I know very well that there was a point before they were born, but I was trying to come to terms with the idea that that's true for all of us, and I can believe it in anybody else, but not me. So it didn't actually work, but it was the idea of thinking, this is a fact. There was a point before I was born, when I was alive. So it's one of those trying to put something, bring it to life in language, so that you can grasp it intellectually, but it doesn't work. The world is everything. Where I come from, the language is water. The essential beat of a line is tidal, a sweep of blood to the heart before the slow boom of a mother's voice and her outer voice that breaks to let others in for manners. The rhythm is sleep and turn in sleep and rock awake and rest. There is tedium without idleness. Where I come from, the ocean is pink and framed and warm. Belly, breast, face, an unclaimed inheritance as we roll and flex in that roundness, lithe and slick, trouble undreamed before us. Our only distress, a thumb lost to the lips, a surge of spite in a tangled cord. Where I come from, we love our dark life. We won't give it up, though we all leave. There's no question of betrayal. We develop a selective personal amnesia and deny the maps and diagrams we half believe, as if we might in fantasy have been there, nothing more. Our hearts steady, our eyes clear, and our tongues begin to dry and falter. And just, I've got time for one more. Short one. Yeah, it's a blessing. We had, I suppose everybody has this. We had a couple of years when a lot of things went wrong. We had a fire, we got burgled a few times, we had a flood, anything that could possibly go wrong, and it was all crammed into a couple of years. So, I mean, the obvious thing to do is to write a poem to put a stop to it. That works. Well, you should be touching things. It has worked. Yes. Can highly recommend writing a blessing for your house. Blessing the house. I love this house as much as trouble does, and so, in opposition to the fire, the flood, the broken glass, the blood, the tireless, tiresome lumbering in the yard, the wolf with keys, the mindless cunning in the cellars, and the green roof space, I must concoct a form of words to drive it out and keep it out. Enough. Begin with that and end, perhaps. Thank you.